Can a man still burn for God in a cold and distracted generation? Leonard Ravenhill did. He was not a man of half measures, nor of polished sermons designed to please. He was a prophetic voice. A man who walked through the 20th century with the fire of the first century church burning in his bones. When Ravenhill spoke, the room would quiet, not because of charisma, but because people felt they were standing in eternity's shadow. Born in England in 1907. Leonard was the son of a hard-working tradesman. His early years were marked not by religion, but by a growing hunger for something more, something eternal. That hunger would take him to Cliff College, a small Bible school in Derbyshire, where he studied under some of the most prayerful, spirit-filled teachers of the day. There, he caught fire. Not with ambition, not with plans, but with God himself, while other young men pursued comfort. Ravenhill pursued God. He became consumed with prayer. Many times, he'd be found alone in the woods, crying out not for revival meetings but for a revival of holiness, for a church that would reflect the purity and power of Christ. He didn't want good meetings, he wanted the glory of God. In the 1930s and 40s, Ravenhill became one of England's most effective evangelists, often preaching in the open air. Thousands would gather, not for entertainment, but to tremble under the weight of conviction. He preached repentance with such fire that hardened sinners wept in the streets. Miracles followed. But Ravenhill never focused on signs, he focused on the condition of the heart. He would say, "The church is dying on its feet because it's not living on its knees." For him, prayer wasn't a ministry. It was breath. By the mid-1950s, Leonard moved to the United States, where he quickly became a voice unlike any other. In a culture growing comfortable with casual Christianity, Ravenhill thundered, "The only reason we don't have revival is because we were willing to live without it." His sermons were not aimed at unbelievers, they were a cry to the church. He wrote the now classic book Why Revival Tarries, a piercing collection of truths that cut through lukewarm Christianity like a sword. The book became a spiritual wake-up call. Read by thousands including future revivalists and evangelists like David Wilkerson and Paul Washer. Even Keith Green, the fiery worship leader, counted Ravenhill as a mentor. And for decades, Ravenhill's small prayer gatherings became secret wells of power that birthed moves of God behind the scenes. He didn't just preach prayer, he lived it. Ravenhill was known to spend for 8 hours a day in intercession. His life was marked by a broken heart for the church, a burden that rarely lifted. He would often pray, "Lord, bend me, break me, melt me, mold me," and God did. He didn't care for applause. He didn't seek fame. In fact, Ravenhill often refused invitations to large platforms. He believed too many preachers wanted to be known by men, not by heaven. He once said, "Are the things you're living for worth Christ dying for?" That question haunted every room he entered. Leonard Ravenhill preached holiness, not the kind that condemns, but the kind that calls you higher. He believed sin had to be exposed, but that grace must point us to transformation. He wasn't interested in producing emotional responses. He longed for a church purified by fire. His later years. Ravenhill's house in Texas became a quiet place of counsel for young preachers and seekers. He would sit by the fire, speaking softly, but with eternity in his voice. To many, meeting him was like meeting a man who had just come down from the mountain. He never built an empire. He never amassed great wealth, but he carried a weight in the spirit few could deny. And when he finally finished his course in 1994, at the age of 87, he left behind no monument to himself, only a trail of burning hearts set ablaze by the truth he lived and preached. Leonard Ravenhill's life is a call back to the upper room, to the secret place, to the foot of the cross. His voice still echoes with urgency. Could a mariner sit idle if he heard the drowning cry? Could a doctor sit in comfort and just let his patients die? Could a fireman stay seated, let men burn and give no hand? Can you sit at ease in Zion with the world around you damned? He didn't come to entertain, he came to awaken. And now the question remains, will we answer?